Good morning, it's 6 o'clock on Tuesday.
The headlines this morning.
Announced by the Prime Minister in a rare broadcast to the nation from Downing Street last night.
Unprecedented restrictions on the way we live.
Officers says enforcement will be difficult.
But this should be as infrequently as possible.
If the worst happens, what can we do?
Everyone's way of life must now change.
See if I can get myself back on this camera here. Good morning. This is Jordan. I'm reporting from Cape Town. Here in South Africa, we are on day, I think, 17 of a full lockdown. And for us here, that means no dog walking, no running, no alcohol.
It's day 27 of the lockdown here in New Delhi, and we find ourselves pretty much in the epicenter or ground zero of it. Our whole residential neighborhood has been locked down with police barricades, and nothing is entering and nothing is exiting.
The first case of corona in Ethiopia was declared on the 13th of March, and after that I just felt like we should get out because I didn't want to be in a place where I didn't feel safe. And then a couple of friends of ours were coming to the Seychelles for 10 days from Addis. It was literally over the course of one day that we made this great escape.
Today is day 30 of the nationwide lockdown in India, and I'm with my parents in Kerala. We have a house and land to isolate ourselves in. We're much luckier than most people in India or anywhere really.
We moved from India out to KL nearly 2 years ago. We're like a family of 5. We opted for high-rise living, and we're on the 25th floor. So we really are stuck, in our apartment with a balcony. I think this is day 40 actually today.
Starting where any interesting tour should probably end, our lovely bedroom. Partner and I just bought a house and have moved in together for the first time. This is Charlie, dealing with lockdown in his own way, mostly by chewing up logs. We are doing that in the midst of this lockdown. We kind of snuck in our move just before, so that was a bit of a panic. Taking time to do things like scrub each window pane individually. I think it's a unique situation. In some ways, it's kind of beautiful that we're building this life kind of little by little. She's not a loaf of bread on a blanket. It's actually a creature.
The government left people initially thinking it was going to be 2 weeks. If somebody had said to me, this is going to be 2 months of you stuck in an apartment with a 2-year-old, a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, I possibly would have rethought my approach. I think I probably had about 3 attempts of setting up a kind of structured timetable to the day that have failed completely after about 1 or 2 days. So I've sort of given up because it depends on everyone's mood in the house, including mine.
The kids have been homeschooling for more than 4 weeks now. That's very good, actually. What are you drawing? What are you painting?
Basically, you get to choose the season thingy, and then you get to basically choose the season, so then you draw the season.
They have really adapted to this new normal with good grace. Small mercies. I wonder where we would be without the internet.
The government announced that there will be no relaxation of the lockdown.
Migrant workers are still crisscrossing the country in large numbers. There was a very sad story at the end of April, a young girl who was travelling back home to her village in Chhattisgarh from Telangana, a distance of over 150 kilometres. She had died of exhaustion and electrolyte imbalance, just 50 kilometres or so short from her village. I suspect there are probably many of these types of stories going on across the country.
I feel like I'm in a bit of a snow globe, enjoying this paradise while the world crashes and burns outside. There's a lot of dissonance between my experience and the experience of so many other people. I've always been prone to feeling guilty for my circumstances in life, and more so now.
My parents and I were in Delhi the week before the lockdown was announced. I thought about the risks and decided that Delhi would be a bad place to be in an ongoing epidemic. My main worry, of course, was for my dad, who's 83. He'll be 84 this year, so he's in a very high-risk group.
I felt guilty, actually. When I'd seen him last, I'd sort of promised him that I would be there to look after my mum. I haven't been able to fulfill the promise that I made to him. Not to be there, I think, when he died, that was difficult, but then not to be able to attend the funeral, I think I just felt really... I felt very disconnected. I mean, everybody knows that their parents are going to die. So it wasn't a shock that he died, and in some ways it was a relief, I think, for everybody, because he'd been unwell and in pain. It was my oldest son's idea that maybe, because he was being cremated, maybe they could, you know, do a sort of mini cremation. They wrote these very sweet letters about how much they loved their grandpa, and we nearly set fire to our balcony by mistake, but managed not to. And we set fire to these little letters in a tray, and then blew threw the ashes of these letters off into the wind, and just said a few words for grandpa. And it was sweet, you know, it was fitting for the boys. It meant that they could say goodbye in a weird kind of way. That was the best we could do, and I think it was special. And I think, you know, my dad would have appreciated it. He would have loved being thrown off the 25th floor into a tropical thunderstorm. He would have found that very dramatic. So
Lockdown Diary, day 3157, dehusking the coconut. This was originally an instrument of torture. One can imagine how it worked. When torture became less popular as a form of entertainment, it was repurposed. And there we are.
So this is one of my abstract pieces. It's been influenced by viral spread and social distancing. So this is on the right, my son, who is looking wistfully out, hoping to go and play football with his friends, and me on the left. And I think I look generally like I'm about to kill one of my children at any moment.
This is a new bush I planted yesterday. It's the national flower of South Africa.
There is a very large population of informal laborers, people really suffering just from simple hunger. So far, the most impactful thing I've been able to do is make a spreadsheet tracking system for a lady who runs a feeding program out of her house. And they cook for 9,000 people a day or something. It's wild. If you have a hammer, you see everything as a nail, right? And to say, well, I work in tech and I know this cool app and like this cool thing that does this, and like at the end of the day, the lady just needs a spreadsheet.
I wanted to read a few lines from this book called A Journey Around My Room by the French writer Xavier de Maistre, who was writing at the end of the 18th century. I have undertaken and completed a 42-day journey around my room. The interesting observations I have made and the continual pleasure I've experienced en route filled me with a desire to publish it. My heart senses an inexpressible satisfaction when I think of the countless unhappy people to whom I am here offering a sure and certain resource against boredom, the new way of travelling that I am introducing into the world.
Just the fact that, you can see so much green is just like a balm for the eyes. It's like watching the snails and listening to the birds. And the other day I came out in the morning and there was a little black rabbit just chilling on the steps.
One of the upsides of this lockdown here in Delhi is that we've seen beautiful blue skies, which I haven't seen since the early 1990s.
One unexpected bonus of staying here this time has been this guy who came to stay with us. Very affectionate, very funny. I hadn't even thought of getting another cat after I lost Stitch, my very beloved 17-year-old, and this guy shows up. So there's a tendency to characterize this crisis as nature's payback for what we've done to the environment. Think of nature as this vengeful deity that will occasionally do something dramatic like this. It abdicates ourselves of the responsibility of fixing what we've done to the environment. It's our global capitalist lifestyles that leads to situations like these by bringing wild animals with potential deadly viruses in them into unsustainably close contact with us.
In my heart, I hope that we learn something. But in my gut, I don't think anything's going to change. I think that this is just one of, a series of things that's going to happen that is just going to lead towards complete collapse of society. And we're kind of like spiraling more and faster and faster into this, into a drain hole. Like, this is how I constantly envision it. I don't think we've got time. I think it's too fucking late, I don't even think we deserve to continue as a race.
I think it's an opportunity for positive change. Malaysia has some really terrible rivers here that have, you know, very, very polluted rivers. And the water quality, just in 6 weeks, you know, they're seeing fish and, you know, monitor lizards returning to waterways where they haven't seen any animals in them for, you know, a decade or more. And we live very close to the jungle here. So, I mean, we've noticed, you know, monkeys encroaching, coming further and further as it's become very quiet on the roads here. There's already been positive change. The question will be whether people want to maintain it over economic recovery. That's the question.